But I said, I think Steph's just going to keep running. He's just going to end up exhausting him. And me saying it, and because you've seen Steph do it, and then realizing he's doing this in year 13. That's nuts. You don't, like, there's few people. Like, there's Steph, there's Reggie, and there's Rip. Those are the three, I think, of just constant motion offense. And good luck guarding him because you're going to get exhausted doing it. And obviously, Steph is that to another level. Rip, phenomenal at that with the mid-range game, sometimes the three-point range, but most of the time it was 18, 15 foot or something like that. Reggie was obviously, we saw it with the three ball with him back in the day, but not to this level. Not with the volume that Steph's doing it with. And it absolutely frees up the rest of the offense to move. And by him being able to do that off the ball while also being a ridiculously skilled ball handler, and then on top of that, you have Draymond Green right behind you who's going to get you 7-8 assists. It just makes it so much easier for the Warriors to run their offense. And it just looked like such a mismatch with these Boston Celtics who didn't have anybody to fill that role for them. So you're relying on your two best players, which makes sense if you think about it. You want the ball in your best player's hands, so you want Tatum and Brown to handle it. But they're not that good at that part of that game. And it ended up hurting them. But I don't know who you replace it with because they're not going to be as skilled offensively to do something with the ball when it's in their hands. So it was just a mismatch that the Warriors were able to take advantage of, and they rode it to a 3 straight victory. The defense stepped up phenomenally. We saw Steph work his ass off defensively, and we saw the rest of the team. Draymond figured it out. He was figured out to be aggressive, but not foul out of the game, which was really huge in Game 6. He was actually able to give them offense. He hit a couple threes to go along with 12 rebounds and 8 assists, almost as a triple-double in Game 6. To remind people of what he brings to the table. People are going to say it. You know what people are going to say. He's been carried to these 4 titles. That's fine. He has absolutely played a very vital part in winning these 4 titles as well. Do they win the 4 without him? I personally don't think so. But if Draymond's on a different team, is he lauded as much as he is? I also don't think so. It's a perfect match by both sides, the Warriors and Draymond. He showed up in Game 6. It was a huge boost for them. And the Celtics got half of what I said they needed to get. We had talked about it. I said they need 70 between their 2 stars. They need around 65-70 between Tatum and Brown. Well, Brown gave you 34. He did his half. Tatum, unfortunately, and I think it's partially mental for Tatum because he's been the guy talked about. He was the guy talked about against the Brooklyn Nets and KD. He was the guy talked about against the Milwaukee Bucks and somewhat Giannis. And then he was absolutely the guy talked about against Miami and Jimmy Butler. Jaylen Brown was the afterthought. He's a star. He's not a superstar, according to the media out there. And so all of this is on Tatum, another young guy who hasn't been here yet and is trying to learn it, to go along with Brown, who's also young and trying to learn it, and then a brand new head coach who's young and trying to figure this stuff out as well. I think it was just too much on one guy's shoulders at a time when he's exhausted. I think this team was absolutely exhausted by this point in the NBA Finals. It was a very long run for them, and they're not used to it. They haven't been here before, and I hope he comes back better because there's a lot of things to really like about Jason Tatum's game, but it's just a little bit too much too soon and with not enough help, especially when it came to running the offense.
Yeah, Brown obviously played great in Game 6, but I agree, they were gassed, and it's what we thought might happen before the finals even started. And again, I want to give us a little bit of credit, the pat on the back. We said, hey, it might not show up in the first couple games, but you get to Game 6 and Game 7, and that's when it's going to rear its ugly head. And that was, of course, enough. Didn't make it to Game 7, but made it to Game 6. And that was enough to really decide the series, in my opinion, because not only are you physically exhausted, you're mentally exhausted. And I think that's a part of what caused all those turnovers.
I'ma get it, you know I be on the way.